Hello and welcome to the Dr. Elisa show here on KUHS Denver, the stream. Thank you for joining me. This is just such a cool day. It's the 1st of December. We are at the end of the year. And if you're joining me from Toronto or Santa Clara or Galveston or Virginia, thank you, wherever you are. Thank you for joining in. I truly appreciate you coming. And so if you don't know who I am, I'm Dr. Elisa. This show has been going on for, about 3 years. It's amazing, right? And the doctor is real. I have a PhD in psych, and I have this interesting background that I have taught. I've been an academic dean at the graduate level, university dean. I have taught at the graduate level, and some of the classes I taught were around the psychology of money, which is a fascinating topic for me. I also did the psychology of marketing and buying and consumerism, and this sort of just cool stuff I loved to explore. So I thought, and with that, I also put myself through my PhD as a professional astrologer. And so one foot in this world of science, social science, and one foot in this world of metaphysics. And I should mention I've got a master's in geology, so absolutely have sort of this all-around view of the world. Also, my first job, I was academic dean at an art school, and I've actually had a few art shows. So I've got this very eclectic background that creates for me an interesting foundation for conversations. And that's what this show has been about, interesting conversations. Last few shows, you just get me as opposed to me and a guest, and I hope you've been enjoying them. If you'd like to participate in a conversation with me, you can go to Facebook, and I have a Facebook page, the Dr. Elisa on the Loose, and that's my tag, helping people live on the loose, and you can find out more about me there. Oh, hey, you know what? You can comment there, and I'll comment back. You can let me know if you're liking the show, and also you can figure out how to work with me. So, because I have this background, I'm a professional mentor. I use astrology, I use my background in psychology, I use my experience as an academic dean, helping people sort of create the life they want, make their plans, move forward, both the faculty, the staff, the students, other deans going for other jobs, all that kind of stuff. I'm a really good mentor, and you can find me at elisarobin.com. That's my website. You'll find me not only on Facebook, but on LinkedIn and on Instagram, and I've started being on Twitter, and you can just follow me. I'm also publish my blogs, my writings, on a website called Medium. But if you just go to my website, elisarobin.com, you'll also see a lot of my blogs there. So yeah, I'm easy to find, and I'm glad to be here with you today. This is awesome. I've had a couple really kind of fascinating conversations. Oh, and in case you're wondering, I have a crystal ball with me. Now, I'll talk about that in a second. But when you're a geologist and you're also a little bit metaphysical, crystal balls are just amazing. And I have a rose quartz crystal ball with me today. And I just have to say that when you're a geologist, these are just so wicked cool. And I have a few of these. We'll talk about them. My 2 books use lessons around how to read a crystal ball, my 2 novels. Dark Fire is my most recent. Thank you for everyone who's been buying it and raving about it. And one of you told me it changed your life, and it's fiction. So please, you can get it on Kindle. You can get it in paperback on Amazon. And also my first book, Way of the Well, which I've now had people reach out to me and ask if they can come have me speak about it and the lessons in it, also fiction. So it's interesting, isn't it, how often a fiction book teaches us more than a self-help, right, nonfiction. I think it's because we can dive into the story, and stories are what move us. And that's a little bit about what I want to talk about today. And again, I want all of your comments and all of your feedback, and in any of those places, you can contact me. Okay, and I've pulled this up on Facebook. I can see if any of you make comments, which is just like really fun. Okay. And who's here? Toronto, Santa Clara. Yeah, you guys are still here. This is really fun. I'm so glad that you're checking in. Oh, I need to go up to the top and see who else is here. From Rome. Oh my gosh, I don't think I've ever had anyone from Rome on my show. Anyway, thank you for being here. So stories. Stories and money. That's going to be our topic today. And I'm going to go into it in a little bit of a unique way. There are two conversations that I've been having with clients. Just the synchronicity of this is striking to me. One of the conversations, the first one, is around the difference between prophecy, right? Talking to a psychic, and why so many people will say to me, I don't believe in astrology, which is fine. Understand that I don't predict, actually. In astrology, I use evolutionary astrology, which is a very different way of looking at yourself. But we ban that, right? We sort of degrade women's intuition. Listening to your gut is good because it sounds kind of manly, right? And in business, you can be manly and listen to your gut. But we have this sense that if anyone else is out there who says they do something kind of esoteric, they must be making it up or lying, and we wouldn't believe them. And yet, what do we want? We want forecasters to tell us what the market is going to do. And all they can tell us is it's going to go up and go down and go up, and that's all they can tell us. Nobody can actually accurately predict that market consistently. Not consistently. It looks like people can, but trust me, right? The market just does, it's an emotional experience, it's hard to predict. But we want to trust those forecasters. We have prognosticators who tell us who's going to win an election. Here's the polls, here's the forecast, here's what people are saying. And yeah, they've been wrong since 2016. They were wrong before that often, but when you get social media out there, you get more and more people predicting, telling us what's going to happen. But we want a guarantee. We want to know. Trust me, I want to know. We want to know if our relationships are real, if they're going to last. We want to know if the job we took, if we made the right decision. We want to know the right school to go to, or the right thing to major in, or the right house to buy. We just want those reassurances. And so we're always looking for predictions. We're always looking for that kind of reassurance. We want it to come from someone who we can say, yeah, this person has been right in my life this many times. I don't know, 50-50 chance they're going to be right. What do you think, Eggstaff? And what do you think, Ashburn? And what do you think, all these lovely places out here? Let's get you to get some more feed for me here. There we go. Paris and London and Toronto and amazing places. Let me know your thoughts. We want predictions. And yet, we shun people, we shy away from people who say, I can give you a prediction, I can work with you, and I can help. Right? Interesting. Where do we really see this? And this was the second thing I ended up talking to a lot of my clients about. And that is all the trainers and coaches out there. There are some very good ones. I've had very good ones on my show, in fact. But there are so many who seem to promise us a one-size-fits-all answer. One size, right? And what I have learned in life is one size that fits all fits no one. Or maybe it fits one person. So just think about this for a second. If you're a woman, you have walked into a store somewhere and seen a piece of clothing that said one size fits all. I can guarantee you it will fit one of my girlfriends if it's a shirt. It always fits her. It never fits me. Have you ever seen these bras that say one size fits all? If you are a woman and you see a bra that says one size fits all, you know there's a problem, right? Right off the bat. You know that's absolutely impossible. It can't happen. And yet, we see one size fits all in many places in our life. Do you agree, Santa Clara? Do you agree, London? Do you agree all the great places you're from? And sort of amazing who's here. Here we go. Just everyone popping in. Louisiana, Ashburn, Toronto, and Burma, and amazing places. Okay. Let me tell you some one-size-fits-all stories, and I think you'll get the message. So, I don't know if you've ever used a trainer, like a workout trainer, and I've only used them a couple times. That's not true. A few times in my life, and I end up giving up. And here's why. First thing that happens, if the trainer's a guy, is the trainer will say to me, how much weight do you want to lose? And that's the first thing that happens. And I'll say, yeah, I don't want to lose weight. That's not what I'm asking for here. I want to do it different. I want health, I want longevity, I want strength, I want tone. That's what I want. They will ask me that question another 3 times until I give them some answer they can put on their form. Because clearly I'm a woman, and one size fits all. All women want to lose weight. So, okay. So I give them an answer. And then they're happy. Okay. They take me out to the floor to show me a workout schedule. And it's really pretty fascinating because the workout they put together for me is exactly the same as the workout they have put together for everybody else, regardless of gender or shape or size or age. Exact same workout. One size fits all. And there are things I will refuse to do. If you work out, let me know. Do you hate these things too? Burpees. Burpees are ridiculous. And don't argue that there is no functional usefulness in a burpee. I am never going to be in a life situation where I have to jump down, throw my legs out, pull my legs in, and jump back up for any reason whatsoever. And someone will say to me, well, it gets your heart rate up. So does running, and so does walking my dog really, really fast. And I do those things on a regular basis. The other thing they usually make me do, if you've seen those super thick, long ropes, they look like the kind of ropes where you would tie a ship up with. They're really heavy duty, big, thick. And you're supposed to stand there and grab the edge of each and, shake them both up and down. And it's disgusting. I think it's really stupid. And I'll be told the exact same thing. It's to get your heart rate up. Okay, there's other ways to get my heart rate up. How about if I go outside and run around for a little bit? Because I like running and I hate this. And they'll tell me you have to do it, at which point is about when I quit, usually. So, I don't know. Guatemala, has that happened to you? Quebec, has that happened to you? One size fits all, right? In clothing, it doesn't work. In training, it doesn't work. And then what do we see around money? What do we see around money? And this is fascinating to me. Go back to, I want a prediction. I want to know that if I do this thing with money, with my business, that I'm going to soar. And there are some realities, but there aren't guarantees. But what do we see? We see an awful lot of people who maybe have not actually been successful at starting a business, offering to coach you on how to start a business. And what they always leave out, this is really fascinating to me, they start with what's your brand and what's your niche and make sure you have a funnel and what's your web page and you can do this. Here's what they don't tell us. 10% of the people in their program will probably be successful. And what they never talk about, if they're that kind of coach, is money. As in, how do you manage money? How do you think about money? Do you know how to use a spreadsheet? And money's an interesting concept because it involves numbers. And in this world, again, as an academic for years, I could go to an academic table, right? I could go to a meeting and we'd be talking budgets and numbers, and it was almost okay for anyone to sort of say, I don't do numbers. And everyone to just kind of pat their hand, not at the academic dean level, but really anyone else, a chair, of a department. If you can't spell, which I can't spell, you are kicked out of higher ed almost. You are apologizing for the rest of your life. But if you say you can't do money or you can't do numbers, there's like this thing about that makes it sort of okay. What I'm going to say to you, and this is just a truth, if you are not willing to do a budget, to look at the numbers, you probably shouldn't be an entrepreneur. if you're not willing to admit that money is part of this, and I need to think about money, I need to not just think about my story about money, which we'll talk about in a minute, but I also need to think about budgets and spreadsheets or revenues or expenditures. I worked somewhere for a while where all they focused on was revenue. Just get revenue, get revenue, get revenue, without ever looking at what we were spending to get the revenue. As you can imagine, that did not go well. And yet somehow that made sense to everybody there. And when I brought up the notion of what am I spending in my budget, people thought I didn't understand. Well, I didn't understand their story. And what I did understand was their story wasn't going to work, which it didn't. But there's this interesting thing about the story we tell about money. One, we want a prediction. We want to know. And we want the prediction to match what we already believe. We want the prediction to match our story. And if I can get someone to give me a prediction that matches my story, then I'll be all on board with them. Problem one, right? Sometimes we have to be told, yeah, it doesn't work that way. We just have to be told that. And that's just this reality, right? You can't keep charging up your credit card and never making a payment and be okay. I mean, at some point, that just doesn't work, right? You got to pay off debts. Unless you're uber rich, and then all the rules change, I guess. So we want a prediction. Just get this. But we want the prediction from someone who we believe, right, that we can trust them, and who matches what we say. And that can lead to conspiracy theories, quite frankly. If my prediction is that candidate A is going to win and candidate B wins, then there must have been fraud. Because why? I listened to somebody who predicted, and I asked 3 people around me, and I'm unwilling to accept the fact that that prediction didn't work. So we want predictions, we want them from certain people, and if it doesn't come true, we're really pissed. We're really, really pissed. We don't want to acknowledge the sort of, unpredictability of life. We want to be within the top of that bell-shaped curve that says this prediction worked. Okay, 1, 2, we want to make sure that whatever answer we're given, that's the one size that fits all. That's the money message that fits all. That's the way to make money that fits all. What do you think, Atlanta? What do you think, Islamabad? What do you think, Clifton? What do you think about that? We want predictions, we want safety, we want it to match our story, and we want to trust a certain person. And that person is going to give us a one-size-fits-all. Okay, where am I going with that? I want to talk there about how then we get money messages that trap us. And let me give you some examples. So one of my clients was what do? I mentor. A lot of times I focus on money stories. I don't have a specific test or, here's the 5 money archetypes. I don't do that. I'm a psychologist. So I work within that framework. Psychology of money. There's some great books on this, by the way. Really, really wonderful books. And the books are wonderful if you actually read them and do the work around them. But we all fall into these similar kinds of traps. So for example, one of my clients in California once said to me, if you have a job in California and you want to be successful, you have to own an expensive car. Now, if you've been to LA, what you know is LA, I grew up there, we love our cars. Love them. We love them because we're going to be sitting in them for a great deal of time on some LA freeway in traffic. That's just like, we love our cars. But I've never actually had anyone ask me in a business situation what kind of car I drive. This person, who made decent money, and really could live fairly well, was always borrowing money from his retired father, in part to pay off the Beamer that he felt like he had to own, a new Beamer that he had to own, or lease, or whatever, to be successful in business. Right? I said, you realize those things don't connect. No, here's the story, and we respond to the story. We live the story. I had another client who had a good job, but decided he wanted a different house, a bigger house. And so he moved further from where he worked and bought a more expensive house. It was a little more expensive, but it was bigger because it was much further away. But what happened now was he had to drive into work it took more time. And to sort of console himself, he would drive through a coffee place and buy an expensive coffee. So he's paying more for a house, he's paying more on gas, and now daily he's buying some sort of coffee concoction at an expensive place. And he came in and told me that he needed a promotion so he could make more money because he didn't understand why he was now sort of broke. Like, choices happen. You make choices. Well, his story was that was a better place to live, and that, his other story was that he could simply get promoted and make more money, which is sort of not how life works. So we have these interesting stories. We believe we need something. We believe that something is going to make us happier or better or whatever, and we spend money, and then we don't know why we don't have money. Now, I gotta say, I have friends, I have a dog, and if you buy a dog, a big dog, you get a big dog, right? It comes with larger bills. You can imagine this, right? If your Chihuahua gets sick and they give them medicine, it's not that expensive. If your Newfoundland, 100-pound Newfoundland gets sick, you're going to spend more. So I'm going to spend more. I knew that in advance. I made that choice. I'm not telling people not to spend money. I'm telling you to spend money in a way that actually does give you joy, that actually is something that makes you feel better about your life, and that it doesn't follow some weird storyline. So let's follow some storylines, and what might some of these be? And I brought one of my favorite books in today just because it's hard sometimes to realize where we get caught and what this is about. And so I thought it might be fun to just, talk about a few of these. I can tell you that we often misjudge where we are with money. People who have a lot of money, who are in an upper, even 5%, let's say, assume that everybody else has that kind of money. That, I had someone say to me, they were talking about saving money. And they said, anybody can save $500 a month. And I thought about some of my clients, and I thought about some of my friends, and I thought about some people who work in different industries, and restaurant, hospitality industry, whatever. They can't save $500 a month. They can't do it. But the assumption that people could just do this came from a place of privilege. Somebody else said to me, they were trying to get me to buy a coaching program, and they said, look, just go get a line of credit from your bank. And I thought, wow, that's fascinating. You're going to judge me. You're going to prejudge, because you could get a line of credit. You're going to prejudge where I am financially. Wow, that's fascinating. We misjudge where people are and where we are in that spectrum. We believe that some people are not doing well because they buy the expensive coffee, when in reality, they're not doing well for lots and lots of reasons. I know I pulled out those examples. These were people who were making good money and then treating themselves and not understanding what was happening to their money. So my example there is really about, think about your money. Just think about it, right? Make decisions not based on some story of what you have to be happy or to be successful. Make your decisions based on living a full life, where you want your money to go, what you want to do with it, what really matters. Figure those things out, and then figure out the numbers. So money, okay. What are some things we should learn? First off, sometimes we have to burn our bridges. Now, we're always told, this is the opposite, right? I've had people tell me throughout my life, don't burn your bridges. And I have to say, I've burned a number of them. Burned that bridge, turned around, walked away, and just watched my shadow right in front of me, right? Because the light was behind me. Is that always a wise thing to do? No. But you know what it does? It commits you to a different way of being in the world. commits you to something new. Sometimes it's the right thing to do. Sometimes we have to radically change our behaviors, our thought processes, or who we are to create a different life. Sometimes. Sometimes what the obstacles in front of us really show us what we truly desire. I know that sounds weird, but obstacles conceal our desires. There's a blockade there. How am I going to get around it? I must really want what's on the other side. If I just turn away from it, if I let the first obstacle turn me away, I don't really desire that. The obstacle is, like, it's not an obstacle because I'm not going to deal with it. There's this interesting thing about life, right, that if it's always easy, that nothing has any value. The things I've worked for, I have much more value in. And what that's taught me is sometimes I have to do the opposite of what I feel like I should do, right? Like I'm in a stressful situation and I get an immediate urge to do something, and perhaps I should do the opposite. Perhaps that old storyline isn't working. We see that with money a lot. And I fall into this. I'm not like blaming people. I'm saying these are things I notice in myself. And I'd love to know Cedar Falls in Singapore and Bayagma. Wow, that's an interesting place. And Nairobi. What do you think about this? Sometimes we try to comfort ourselves by doing old behaviors. And that old behavior might be, eating something, or it might be going out with friends. And those things are great. We know how to comfort ourselves. But sometimes we're comforting ourselves in inappropriate ways. So, when you're a kid and you screw up, you do something wrong, you can have a temper tantrum when people criticize you. When you're an adult, it doesn't really work very well. So that first urge to simply defend yourself is not the best thing to do. Same in the money script. Oh, I spent my money wrong, I think I'll spend more in the same way. People who invest in something, and I'm not talking stock market, but sometimes we're doing something, and I've heard people say over and over again, I have too much invested to back out. Well, I don't know. Sometimes you've invested too much, and calling it good is a good way out, right? Like, how do I get out of this so I don't lose more money? Not one right answer here, right? Not one size fits all, but things we need to think about. So how do I react? Think about the old stories you've brought with you about relationships, for example. I was in a relationship and this person did this and I reacted like that, and now you're in a new relationship. And that new person maybe doesn't do that thing, but your reaction, your immediate reaction to anything that seems a little off is your old reaction, because you got hurt then. And our bodies remember the pain. Our emotions remember the pain. And we will respond. We are wired to protect ourselves. And if we see something that was dangerous before, we will respond. And we'll respond possibly without thinking it through. I give you just a very funny example. I had my very large Newfoundland dog at the dog park the other day, and she was wrestling with another very large dog. Now, when two very large dogs wrestle, just get out of their way. Make sure your knees are nowhere near them, because they look aggressive. They look like they're fighting. They were wagging their tails. They were playing. They were having a grand old time. But somebody came up to me and said, should we break them up? I said, no, of course not. Look, they're having fun. And this person said, no, they're fighting. I'm like, no. You've seen dogs fight. But look at them. They're wagging their tails. They both stop and pause. And then one dog goes for the other, and that dog surrenders. And then that dog goes for the other dog. And then that dog surrenders. They're playing. I know what it looks like. And I know you're scared. But look at it again. Often our first response is not our best response. And in fact, sometimes when we're uncomfortable, we're actually making progress. What does this mean about money? We have money scripts. And my money script is about saving. What makes me feel safe is having money in my savings account. That makes me feel safe. For other people, what makes them feel safe is being able to spend money, or their money script is, if you have money, you should spend it so it doesn't go away. Just go ahead and spend it, and then you'll never lose it. They're just different scripts. I'm not saying one is right or wrong. But what used to make me incredibly uncomfortable was spending money on anything. Anything. Except I could donate it, I could give it to friends if they were in need, but I couldn't, if I bought something for $5 and it didn't work, I'd beat myself up over $5 even though I'd made some large donation somewhere. Why? Because my money script was, I have to be careful. I don't spend it on frivolous things. Save your money. I grew up hearing that. Anything I wanted, I'd hear that story. Save your money. Nothing wrong with that message. What I had to do was start to learn that there were times where I just had to say, okay, I'm spending it, right? And now I've learned if I decide to take a trip, decide to travel, that I don't worry about money. And in fact, I've created a savings account especially for travel. And then I don't worry, I spend that money. But do you get that it's a script? It's an old story. It's an old story that I'm still living by, that sometimes is good. When I step out of it, I'm uncomfortable. And so sometimes stepping out makes us uncomfortable. And that's when we know we have to lean into the unknown. Just lean in a little bit. It's so funny, right? Go back to my beginning. What do I want? I want a prediction that matches what I want. And I want a one-size-fits-all answer. And I want to know that when I get that and I do that, I have a guarantee. And life is so unpredictable that the only way to grow in this world is to lean into the unknown. Just lean into it. Courage doesn't mean we're not afraid. It means we have a sense of gratitude and grace in the face of challenges. Hey, it's halfway through my show, and this is the Dr. Elisa Show on KUHS Denver, the Stream. It's an amazing radio station. Hi, London. Hi, Rio de Janeiro. Hi, Alberton. Hi, Amsterdam and Frankfurt. And oh my gosh, look at you just piling in. Thank you, thank you. You can chat with me, which I'm not noticing you doing, but which you can do on my Facebook Live page, which is Dr. Elisa. I just screwed up my page, of course, here. The Dr. Elisa on the Loose. You can go there and you can chat with me. You can post things. You can just check in and see what's going on there. I think that might be fun for you to do. Say hi. Let me know that you think this is crazy or important or good or, you know, whatever it happens to be. And I seem to have just lost my, here we are. Let me know. Let me know if you're going to chat. Just go ahead and put something in the chat there. And what are we talking about? Sort of an interesting, I hope you're tracking with me. They make sense in my mind, and I know that's always difficult, right? But that this need to know, we are disdainful of people who want to help us, and sometimes that's really, really wise, right? But these people are bad to know from, but these people are good because they have a degree, or they have made predictions in the past, or they're on the news show. Oh, if they're on a news channel and they're predicting, they must know what they're saying. Yeah, not necessarily true. It's crystal balls for almost all of it. For almost all of it, right? And I want to know answers that work for me, that I agree with. And give me these answers that have worked for other people, and I know it'll work for me. Tell me it's going to work for me, right? Tell me if I follow my Myers-Briggs type that I'll do well at work. Tell me that the colors test, or the strengths inventory, or the Enneagram, toss out astrology, even though all of those are based on astrology, but that any of those will help me be successful, and they might. But it's not a one-size-fits-all. It never is. What do we need to do? We need to listen to good advice, absolutely. And we also need to know that that advice won't always work. Life is chaotic. Life is unpredictable. It'd be lovely to say, hey, I can tell you how to get rich. Now, the truth is, there's a lot of secrets to this, right? I'll tell you the first one. Start saving money every single month when you're young, right? I don't know. Let's say 20. Start saving some amount of money every single month and put it in some account. Put it, you know, in whatever, bond. Put it somewhere where you're getting interest, and don't touch it. Wait. Just wait. Why? Because things multiply, things compound, and it's compounding interest that brings us money. That most people prior to, I don't know recent data, but most people who really built up some sort of reasonable savings account, that's what they did. They put money in and they left it there and they waited. They just waited. They waited it out. The market went down, the market went up. Interest went down, interest went up. Right? But they waited. And it is that long-term waiting that humans are not good at. We like instant gratification. It is that long-term waiting. Sometimes it's working hard to improve yourself, getting a college degree or getting a master's, whatever it is, and then moving up the ranks in some sort of business and investing in whatever they've got, 401ks, and knowing that, okay, I'm putting in my time and my energy and I'm waiting. And this is where I'm going to get financially. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's also nothing wrong with doing stuff you love. Nothing wrong with that either. But somehow, recently, the message has been that the only way for anyone to be successful is to hire a coach who tells you how to start a business. And that if you follow their rules, you'll get rich. Now, I need to tell you, I have some great business coaches in my world, right? Allie Hill, who's been on my show, you can Google her. Sound Advice Women, Allie Hill. She's a business advisor. She understands the money and stuff, and she will advise people individually for how to build that business. Individual, not a mass program. What else works? You know, you can choose a job that pays less, but know that you're okay, because you're also going to save, and because your desires are to have a different kind of life, and that's glorious. That's absolutely glorious. And then understand that at some point, if you change your mind, you're going to have to change your behaviors. You're going to have to change the story, because the story is where we're all connected. Understand, right, that yeah, you can try wild entrepreneurial things and have a great time with it. And if you try and fail and try and succeed and then keep going, you know, there's a good chance you're going to build something for yourself. But you're going to have to be also aware of the money, the finances, all of that stuff, and not just live off of the hope that what you believe is important is going to sell. I've seen so many of these, and it isn't that it doesn't work, it's that it takes a great deal of intention and focus and work and effort and luck. And we never factor luck into this, which is an interesting thing. I'm Jewish, and we absolutely believe in luck in the world. And sometimes you've got good luck, and sometimes you've got bad luck. And when you have good luck, you should donate, because when you have bad luck, you're going to need the social support. So always be aware that the wheel turns. Be aware of that. The wheel can turn. And any risk takes luck. Now, here's some stories that are interesting that we tell ourselves. If I am successful, I tell myself, right, this is a psychological thing. When we are successful, we tell ourselves we were smart. We were lucky maybe, but we were good, we were smart, we worked, we did it. When we fail, we say, that was a big risk. I took a big risk. And so that was good that I took a big risk, but I was a little unlucky. When somebody else fails, we say, they made bad decisions. So we're always looking at ways to protect ourselves with the story. Always. Again, remember, we want the predictions to match what we want, so we will change that story. It's the story. We'll change the story to match what we want, what we believe, what we need. And because of that, we shouldn't believe every single thought we have. I mean, it's just, I think things, and then I talk to someone who says, that's not right. And I've said that to people. That's not right. You just, right? And I don't want to believe that. I like what I believe. I'll give you an example. So you know, there's this big thing right now on oodles, dogs. Every dog is an oodle. You got a Bernedoodle, you got a Labradoodle, you got a Golden Oodle, you got oodles. And I was talking to somebody, and they were telling me they were going to get a dog that was a part German Shepherd, part Afghan. And the reason they were going to do this was because the breeder guaranteed him that the breeding would result in a dog with the brain of the Golden, right, and the sort of attitude and the smarts, but the sort of sleek kind of look of the Afghan. This guy was a lawyer. And I said, you know it doesn't work that way, right? Like, you put all the gene pool into a bottle and you shake it up and some puppies come out, and you know, parents know this, right? Same stuff goes into the bottle, you shake it all up, and somebody different comes out. It doesn't always work like that. And he couldn't believe me, which I thought was sort of amazing. So what are these storylines like that, where we want to just believe we're right, okay? We somehow believe, and I think this is great, that, and again, I'm not knocking some of these beliefs, but here are some assumptions that work for us, right? Here are some beliefs that empower us. First, I can make a plan, and I can follow my plan, and if I get to something where I need, the plan isn't working, I can get advice. Not predictions, advice. I can look at it. I can learn. I can understand why this plan is better than that plan. I can be a bit courageous. I can understand that sometimes there's a risk involved. I can be patient. I can get it. The stock market went down. Don't pull your money out just right yet, okay? Wait, patience. Patience. Look back in history. Understand that I'm not the smartest person there, and if I was lucky, don't bank on that for the future. Don't bank on luck all the time. Some people have it, right? I mean, some people are just lucky, and if you are, don't count on it always being there. Be grateful when it is. Why? Because we get ahead of ourselves. We figure we've always been lucky. Think about a student who always got A's. You always got A's. You didn't have to study. You just got A's. I was not that student. But imagine that student in high school. And then they go off to some high-end college and thinking they can do the same thing. But all those people at the bottom of the bell curve, they're gone. They didn't make it into this college. And now all of a sudden, that way of being in the world, that storyline, it does not work. So, have to change the story. Have to change behaviors. Making good decisions can be hard work and can be scary. And honestly, there are times I don't want to make that decision. I know the right thing to do. I really do. I don't want to do it. Right? Have you been there? Nobody actually wants to make a dentist appointment, even when their teeth hurt. Nobody really wants to go get whatever that medical test is they're supposed to get to see. Nobody wants to do that. And maybe you don't have to get all those tests. But sometimes you do. Do I have the fortitude to do something I don't want to do? Do I have the discipline to do something I don't necessarily want to do? Can I change my plan? Can I admit I need to change my plan? I can adapt. Can I make the money I need? Yeah, and here's the thing. When it comes to money, there's never enough. We're always moving the goalpost. This is an interesting thing. I've seen it with my clients. I'll say to them, how much money do you need to have or to earn to be happy? And they will inevitably tell me twice as much as they have. They have $1 million in savings, they need 2. I met people, I had a couple clients who were multimillionaires, and they told me 2 things. 1, they spent all their time worrying about losing their money, and 2, they'd have enough money when they had twice as much. How much do you need? Really? You know what the research says? The number used to be around 75 grand a year, but once you have enough money to pay all your bills and have some fun and not worry, more money does not make you happier. It might make you more secure if you put it in savings, but we don't do that. Most people make more money and spend more money. It's a sort of interesting thing. You know, you buy a house and there's empty spaces, and so you buy things to put in those spaces. We adapt up. And then enough is never enough because the goalpost keeps moving. It's a storyline. When do you have enough? And can you have enough? And you can say that having enough is grand. I know some people like that. And I'm so proud of them. I mean, it's fun to be with them. They have great lives. They enjoy their life. They know that their life is really about being with their friends, being open-hearted, buying stuff that gives them pleasure, and being financially secure and not worrying. They don't need more. They're okay. It's an interesting storyline, right? It's a great storyline. What we're told we have to love our work. We're told we have to find our passion and love our work. And I have to tell you, that's a very modern notion. There was a time where what you loved was the fact that you had good people you worked with. Or, you know, my dad, when I was growing up, he owned a liquor store mini market kind of thing. This is way before 7-Elevens were big in LA. And I don't know that he liked the work that much, but you know what he loved? He loved taking care of us and supporting the family and knowing that he was going today and doing a good job. He loved that. That gave him joy. Would he have had more joy as an artist? Possibly. More joy maybe if he could have been a history teacher. Yeah, but his life didn't play that way. And so what did he do? He found joy and love in what he did. I've had jobs I hated, and I truly have, and I left some of those. I've also been able to find joy in jobs that I knew weren't my perfect fit, but it was a good place for me to be. There was a reason to be there. I changed the storyline, and one of my web pages went away. That is something that we are capable of doing. So how do we do this, right? How do we understand some of these myths we fall into, some of these storylines? One of them is we always create a straw man, right? So the guy who had to have the expensive car, right? The straw man was, I want to be successful in LA, and here's the only way to be successful in LA. I have lots of friends who are successful in LA, and they drive Fords and Chevys. They're not driving super expensive cars. They, you know, yeah, you're in your car a lot, but come on. That's not where they want to spend their money. And so we are both the protagonist and the antagonist in our own stories. We have these money myths, and we become the good guy and the bad guy. And we have to decide which way we're going to go. What are some of these other things that get in our way? Envy. They have more. Well, maybe they do. Maybe they don't. I got to tell you, there are people who live very rich lives who are way in debt, who look like they live rich lives because they're on social media, but they're not rich, or they're not happy. What we see isn't real. You know, if it comes across your screen, I think you should question it. Just like TV, Hallmark movies are wonderful, aren't they? They're romantic, they're kind, they always have a nice happy ending. The struggle's in the middle, and they always end happy. And life isn't a Hallmark movie. Maybe it eventually ends happy, but partly because we change. And if you look at movies, those movies have gotten interesting. The desire changes. The realization of what I want changes. Envy gets in our way. We have a sense of outside applause tells us that what we're doing has value. You know how something has value? Because somebody smiled. Because it fills your heart. You can go, be on a board at a nonprofit. You want to leave a legacy? Pick one nonprofit, donate what you can, donate your time, watch how it changes that small sector of the world. That's how you leave a legacy. That's where worth comes from. It doesn't come from being on the stage and getting applause. It doesn't come from a video that goes viral. It goes viral and then it's gone. I was just recently, and I hope some of this makes sense to you. It may sound rambling, but I want you to get. Here's the pieces I want you to get. But life is chaotic. Life is unpredictable. But we can have wonderful lives inside of that. Yes, we should listen to some people, but we should always be thoughtful. Just because your neighbor said it doesn't make it true. And the one-size-fits-all answer is never going to be the exact right answer for you. Occasionally, let me take that back, occasionally. But don't buy it because that person tells you it works for everybody. We were driving, went to California for Thanksgiving, and my partner and I, he was driving through the Southwest, which meant I got to look at stuff, which is always grand. And we're both geologists. And you sort of look at these towering spires and these rocks, and if you're a geologist, what hits you is the amount of time that it takes for a grain of sand to lay on another grain of sand ad nauseum, and to be buried deep under the earth with pressure and heat and time, and then emerge as Zion or Bryce or Arches or wherever, the Grand Canyon. And to realize that it takes that amount of time to truly be a legacy, to truly be a change, really to leave a mark. And that I'm never going to be as famous as Old Faithful and in Yellowstone, never. It doesn't matter how many times I go viral. And that's okay. Because I didn't come here to be famous. I came here, my soul incarnated, to have a life experience, an amazing life experience, to love deeply, to love fully, to live generously, to talk to you, to teach, to hopefully open up some idea in your mind that inspires you, to help you live a life on the loose, which means don't be trapped by old storylines. Don't worry about the predictions around you that don't make sense to you. If they don't make sense, you're questioning. That's a good thing. Dig in. You can learn. You can find your answers. And if somebody says, I have the one true and right way, turn around, walk away, because they don't, and they never will. Not for you. Okay, and so, whoever you are, wherever you are, I'm getting to the end of my time. And I have to tell you, I love this time, and I'm so hoping that it makes sense to you and that it resonates and that there's something in here that you grab. You know, if you go to a workshop or a conference and you walk out with a 60-second insight, you spent your money well. So I'm hoping that you spent this hour with me well, or this half an hour, or this 15 minutes with me well, and you heard one thing that was transformational. Where can you find me? You want to work with me? I'd love to work with you. ElisaRobin.com. That's my website. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on TikTok. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on LinkedIn, Elisa Robin. You won't find me on Twitter for lots of reasons. That's a bunch of dogs barking at each other, people just yelling. Or you can email me, ElisaRobin@msn.com. I'd love to work with you. And I'd love to talk with you again in 2 weeks. We're going to do some sort of fun psychic stuff in the next couple of weeks, just because we're coming into the holidays. But this one, as you walk into the holidays, I'd like you to spend some time thinking about your money, especially as you approach this money script that says spend it all and go into debt. No debt. Don't do it. That's my big advice. And what I ask for you and hope for you is to stay healthy, stay well, stay inspired, and living on the loose.